They snatched the rifle out of her hands before she'd even racked the sling, and the first man was already flipping through the air by the time I understood what I was watching. My name is Owen Castellan, and I was 3 weeks into the joint training rotation at Marrow Creek when I saw a woman lose a weapon and win a fight in the same breath, and I have never forgotten the sound the gym made when it happened. The rifle belonged to her, Corporal Dahlia Voss, according to the roster nobody bothered reading closely. She'd signed in that morning like everyone else, quiet, squared away, gear tight, boots laced the regulation way with the extra loop the older instructors taught. She hadn't said 10 words to anyone in 3 days. Then Chief Petty Officer Reams decided she needed testing. I'd watched Reams needle new arrivals before, a habit of sorting people into boxes before he'd learned their names. Usually it was harmless. This felt different from the first second, and I think everyone in that gym sensed it before he opened his mouth. "Let's see how she does without it," Reams said, and pulled the rifle clean off her shoulder before she could react, tossing it to a teammate like a relay baton. 5 SEALs formed a loose ring around her on the training floor, padded mats underfoot, safety glasses pushed up on foreheads, nothing soft about the grins. I was up in the observation rail with a clipboard I stopped writing on the second the rifle left her hands. "Rifle's the only thing keeping you here, sweetheart," Reams said, loud enough for the whole gym to hear. "Let's find out what's left without it." She didn't argue. She didn't reach for the rifle like it mattered. She rolled her shoulders once, exhaled through her nose, and set her feet shoulder-width, weight low, hands loose at her sides like she was waiting for a bus instead of 5 armed men closing a circle. I'd heard the talk in the chow line the night before. Spec Ops liaison, attached from some unit nobody could name, here to observe our combatives program. Reams had decided observer meant administrative, meant she hadn't earned the floor. He was wrong, and he was about to learn it in front of 40 men and a chief master sergeant who'd stopped pretending to inspect equipment racks. The first SEAL came in fast, a big petty officer named Krantz, 220 pounds of him, going for a control grab at her wrist to drag her off balance. She wasn't there when his hand closed. She'd already pivoted off his lead foot, redirected his own momentum with 2 fingers and a hip turn, and put him on his back with a controlled drop that let his shoulder blades take the mat instead of his skull. No slam, no drama, just physics used against him. He was up on one elbow, blinking at the ceiling lights, before he understood he'd already lost. "Again," Reams said, "jaw tight now, the grin gone thin." The second man tried to close the distance low, a takedown aimed at her hips. She met him with a sprawl, trapped his arm at the elbow mid-lunge, and used his own forward drive to send him rolling past her, controlled, clean, no wasted force. He tapped the mat twice before he even finished landing, more out of instinct than pain. 40 seconds gone, 2 down. I could hear my own pulse over the gym's ventilation fans. The third and fourth came together, flanking her, which told me somebody in that circle finally understood this wasn't going to be easy. She read the flank before they closed the gap, stepping inside the space between them so their own bodies became obstacles to each other's angles. A forearm strike redirected one man into his partner's shoulder. She swept the near man's ankle, guided his fall with an open palm at his chest so he took it on his side instead of his back, then pinned the second at the wrist and pressed until his knee buckled and he went down beside his friend, tapping fast against the mat. Nobody in that gym was laughing anymore. I heard boots shuffle back instead of forward. Reams himself stepped in for the fifth, because pride demanded it and he was the biggest man on that floor. He came at her with everything he had, a real committed strike aimed to end things quickly and save face. She didn't meet force with force. She turned like water sliding around a stone, caught his extended arm at the wrist and elbow, and used his own speed against his own balance, redirecting 240 pounds of committed momentum into the mat. He hit flat on his back, air gone from his lungs in a single hard cough, staring up at the fluorescent lights with an expression I can only call disbelief. 63 seconds, start to finish, by the gym clock on the wall behind the pull-up bars. 5 men down, not one of them hurt beyond their pride and a few bruises that would fade by Friday. She stood in the center of that ring, breathing even not a hair out of place, her uniform barely creased. She didn't say a word. She didn't stand over Reams the way some men would have, didn't look around for approval, didn't smile at the silence she'd created. She simply turned, walked to where her rifle had been set down against the cinderblock wall, and slung it back over her shoulder like she was picking up a conversation she'd left mid-sentence. Reams got up slow, one hand pressed to his ribs. He looked at her for a long moment, the kind of look a man gives when he's rewriting everything he thought he knew about someone in real time. Then he did something I never expected from a man like him. He came to attention and saluted her, right there on the mat, in front of every man who'd watched him go down. "Corporal," he said, voice rough, "I owe you an apology." "You don't owe me anything, Chief," she said. Her voice stayed level, no edge in it, no triumph riding underneath. "You wanted to know what was left without the rifle. Now you know." The other 4 were on their feet by then, wincing, and one by one, they did the same thing, not mocking salutes but real ones, the kind you give someone who just taught you something you badly needed to learn. I found out later that her file wasn't administrative at all. Spec Ops operator, combatives instructor raiding from a schoolhouse most of us had only heard rumors about. 3 deployments nobody in that room was cleared to hear the details of. She'd been sent to Marrow Creek to evaluate our training standards, not to be evaluated by them. And Reams had spent his first 3 days with her treating a quiet professional like a paperwork mistake. The base commander called a formation 2 days later, not to punish Reams, but to introduce Corporal Voss properly to the rotation, this time reading her full title off the roster instead of skimming past it. She stood at parade rest through the whole thing, expression unreadable, and afterward went right back to observing our drills like nothing about that gym floor had changed her routine at all. I think about that 63 seconds more than almost anything else from that rotation. Not because of what she did to those 5 men, though I will never forget the economy of it, the total absence of wasted motion, every technique measured to the exact force required and not 1 ounce more. I think about it because of what she didn't do. She never raised her voice above a normal register. She never gloated over a man laid out on his back. She just proved what needed proving, in front of everyone who needed to see it, and picked her rifle back up like the whole thing had cost her nothing at all. Reams still tells that story now, closing in on retirement, usually to young sergeants who think confidence and volume are the same thing. Not as the day he got beaten on his own training floor. As the day he learned what respect actually costs, and that Corporal Dahlia Voss had already paid that price, in full, long before she ever stepped onto the mat in front of him.